The sky split open at dawn, and I knew we were going to die. I was already running when the first drop pod hit the jungle. My name is Caleb Brooks, sergeant in the 3rd Earth Expedition, and I had been on the alien world of Kefira for 9 days when the end of the world arrived. The pod came down through the canopy like a burning fist. Trees the size of towers snapped in half. Birds with 4 wings screamed into the sky. And I was already moving because 16 years of service had taught me one thing. The first 30 seconds of any attack decide the next 30 years of your life, if you have any left. I slammed through the door of the East Wing and shouted for the princess. Her name was Asari and she was 17 years old. She was the 3rd daughter of the Coral Throne and I was supposed to be her token guard, her funny little human pet, a gift from the humans to the Valyrian court, a show of trust between 2 species that did not yet trust each other. I had been told very politely that my job was to stand still and look friendly. The real protection came from the Sunshield Guard, 12 silver warriors, 4 arms each, bonded to her since birth. The best soldiers in 3 sectors. I found her in the garden. She was holding a flower in 2 of her hands and staring at the sky. "Princess," I said, "move now." She did not move. She just looked up at the burning trail the pod had left behind and whispered something in her own language. I did not need a translator. I had seen that face on 100 young soldiers on their first day of combat. The face that says this cannot be real, because if it is real, then everything is different now. I grabbed her wrist and pulled. She came with me, stumbling. "What is happening?" she asked. Her voice was very small. "Croth," I said, "raid may be worse." "The Croth would not dare," she said. It was the same thing Captain Threx had said yesterday. It had been wrong yesterday, and it was even more wrong now. We reached the main hall just as the second pod hit. The estate shook. Dust fell from the carved ceiling. Somewhere behind us, a wall collapsed with a sound like thunder. I pushed Asari against the stone and covered her with my body until the shaking stopped. When I stepped back, she was staring at me. All 4 of her eyes were wide. "You are bleeding," she said. I touched my forehead. My fingers came away red. I had not even felt it. Adrenaline does that. It turns your body into a machine and hides the damage until later. "Safe room," I said. "Where is it?" She pointed down the hall with a shaking hand. I pulled her forward and we ran. The hallway was long and made of pale stone. Paintings of her ancestors looked down at us from the walls. Great queens, great warriors, women with 4 arms and silver fur who had carved an empire out of jungle and ice. I wondered what they would think of their descendant now, running beside a small human with blood on his face. I wondered if they would approve. Then I heard boots on the marble behind us, and I spun around with my rifle up. It was Captain Threx. He was tall even for a Valyrian. His armor was black and gold, the colors of the Sunshield. His 4 hands each held a weapon, 2 plasma glaives, a kinetic pistol, and a long curved blade that had been in his family for 6 generations. His silver fur was standing up along his neck. He was breathing hard. Behind him came his 11 warriors, their boots ringing on the stone. "Captain," I said. I lowered my rifle. "Thank the stars. The princess needs to reach the safe room. I can hold the east corridor while your men take her." Threx looked at me. Then he looked at Asari. Then he looked past us at the far end of the hall where the main doors were shaking from something hitting them on the other side. "The shuttle is on the north pad," he said. "It lifts in 4 minutes." "Good," I said. "Let us move her." "The shuttle is for the guard," Threx said. I thought I had heard him wrong. I waited for him to say more. He did not. "Captain," I said slowly, "the shuttle is for the princess." "The shuttle is for the guard," he said again. "We will regroup with the fleet. We will come back for her." Asari made a sound behind me. It was not a word. It was the sound a person makes when something they believed in their whole life breaks in front of them. "Threx," she whispered. "Threx, no." He would not look at her. He would not look at her at all. "It is tactical," he said to me. His voice was flat. "The Kroth take hostages. They will keep her alive. We cannot fight them here. We will return with force." "You were bonded to her at birth," I said. My voice did not sound like mine. "I was bonded to the throne," he said, "not to a third daughter." For a moment I could not speak. 16 years of training and I could not think of a single word. I had seen cowards before. I had seen deserters. I had seen officers sell out their own men for a promotion. But I had never seen anything like this. 12 of the finest warriors in 3 sectors, walking away from a girl they had sworn their lives to because the math said she was not worth saving. Then the main doors broke. They did not crack. They did not splinter. They came apart in a single explosion of wood and metal, and something came through them, something tall and thin and wrong. It had too many legs and a head shaped like a blade. Its eyes were black and wet. It saw us, and it opened a mouth that went all the way around its face, and it screamed. Threx turned and ran. He did not give an order. He did not fire a shot. He just turned, and his 11 warriors turned with him, and they ran for the north door. 400 years of honor, 12 bonded guards, gone, just gone. I raised my rifle and fired 3 times into the thing at the end of the hall. It dropped. Another one climbed over it. I fired again. That one dropped too. Behind me, I could hear the sunshield boots getting fainter. I could hear the distant roar of a shuttle engine lighting up. Asari was frozen. She was staring at the empty hall where her guards had been. "Princess," I said. My voice was calm now because calm was the only thing left. "Safe room, point." She pointed with a hand that shook so badly I almost could not follow it. "Go," I said. "Run. I will be right behind you." "You are not going with them," she whispered. I fired 3 more shots. 3 more creatures dropped in the doorway. More were coming. I could hear them now on the roof, in the walls, climbing through the shattered garden. "Princess," I said, "I am a human soldier. We do not run from children." She stared at me. Something changed in her face. I did not know what it was. I did not have time to know. "Move," I said. She moved. We ran down the hallway, her bare feet slapping the stone, my boots heavy behind her. She led me through a side door, then down a narrow staircase, then through a kitchen that smelled of spice and smoke. Somewhere above us, glass shattered. Somewhere below us, something scratched at the walls. At the end of a long corridor was a heavy door made of dark metal. She pressed her hand against a pad beside it. The door slid open. Inside was a small stone room. No windows, 1 light, shelves of water and food, a single bed. I pushed her inside and followed her in. I hit the lock panel. The door slid shut. The light above it turned red. Asari slid down the wall and sat on the floor. She wrapped all 4 of her arms around her knees and put her head down. I stood at the door and listened. Somewhere above us, the shuttle engine roared, then faded. Threx was gone. The sunshield guard was gone. The coral throne had left its daughter in a hole in the ground with a bleeding human and a rifle with 40 shots left. I checked my weapon. I checked my blade. I looked at the locked door and I did the math. 1 human, 1 girl, a whole estate full of monsters. And for the first time since the sky cracked open, I smiled. Because the monsters did not know what they had just trapped themselves in a building with. The scratching started 10 seconds after the safe room door sealed shut. I heard it through 3 inches of dark metal, a slow, dry sound like claws dragging over bone. Then a second set joined it. Then a third. They knew we were in here. I did not know how, but they knew. Asari lifted her head from her knees. Her silver fur was matted with sweat and dust. Her 4 eyes were red around the edges. "Caleb," she whispered, "can they get through?" I pressed my ear against the door and listened harder. The scratching had a pattern now. 2 long, 1 short, 2 long, 1 short. That was not random. That was a signal. They were calling more of their own. "Not this door," I said, "but they do not need to come through this door." She stared at me. "What does that mean?" It means they will come through the ceiling, I said. Or the floor, or the wall, pick one. I crossed the small room in 3 steps and pulled the blanket off the bed. Under the bed was stone, solid and smooth. Good. I tapped the walls with the butt of my rifle. 3 of them were solid. The 4th had a hollow sound in one corner. I pressed my hand against it. A vent. A small one, big enough for a child's arm. Big enough for whatever those things were to push something through if they found it. I dragged the small metal table across the room and pushed it against the vent. Then I put the food shelves on top of the table. Then I put the bed frame on top of the shelves. It would not stop them, but it would slow them down, and slowness was currency now. Asari watched me work. She was very still. "You have done this before," she said. "Not this exact thing," I said. "Something like it." "Tell me." I stopped working. I looked at her. She was sitting on the cold stone floor with her knees pulled up to her chest, and she was asking me to tell her a story. Not because she wanted to hear it, because she needed to hear my voice. She needed to believe that I was calm, and if I was calm, then maybe she could be calm too. "A long time ago," I said, "on a world called Hadrian, my unit was cut off behind enemy lines. 38 of us. We held a farmhouse for 6 days. When they came for us on the 7th day, we walked out with 29 men still breathing." "What happened to the other 9? "They got us home," I said. "That is what they did." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You are going to get me home, Caleb." It was not a question. It was the first real thing she had said since Threx ran. "Yes," I said, "I am." The scratching stopped. I froze. Asari noticed the change and her whole body went still. We both listened. The silence pressed against the door like a weight. Then very softly I heard footsteps. Not the sharp tap of cloth claws. Boots. Valyrian boots, 3 pairs, moving slowly down the corridor outside. A voice spoke through the door panel. It was deep and calm and smooth as oil. "Princess Asari, this is Sub-Captain Veskin of the Sunshield Guard. Please open the door." Asari's head came up fast. Hope flared in her eyes like a match. "Veskin," she breathed. "He came back." I raised my hand. She stopped. "Wait," I said. I pressed myself against the door and listened. 3 sets of boots. Breathing but light, too light. No weapon charges humming. No armor creaking. Valyrian armor creaked when you moved in it. I had learned that in my first week at the palace. And there was something else. A smell coming through the vent at the top of the door. A wet smell, sweet and rotten at the same time. "Princess," I whispered, "when did Sub-Captain Veskin leave with the others?" "He was on the shuttle," she whispered back. "I saw him board." "Then how is he back?" Her face changed. The hope died. "Princess Asari," the voice said again. It was exactly the same. Same tone, same pauses, like a recording. "Please open the door. The estate is secure. We have returned for you." I knew that voice now. I had heard it yesterday at dinner. I had heard it 5 minutes ago when Threx was telling me the shuttle was for the guard. The Croth had found a way to copy it, or they had found a throat that could make it. Either way, whatever was standing outside that door was not Sub-Captain Veskin. I motioned Asari behind me. She moved without a sound. "Sub-Captain," I said through the door. "This is Sergeant Brooks. Please authenticate. What was the phrase Captain Threx used to start the morning drill yesterday?" Silence. The voice came back smooth and calm. "Open the door, Sergeant. That is an order." "Authenticate," I said. "Open the door." "Authenticate," I said again. The voice did not speak anymore. For a long 5 seconds nothing happened. Then something hit the door. Not a hand, not a claw, something heavy and sharp with weight behind it. The metal rang like a bell. Asari flinched against the far wall. The thing outside hit the door again, and a 4th time. Each hit was harder than the last. The dark metal was thick, but nothing is thick enough forever. I looked around the small room. My eyes moved fast now in the way they move when the body knows it is running out of time and the brain is trying to keep up. Food shelves, blanket, small lamp, water bottles, a first aid kit bolted to the wall, a thin metal bed frame, my rifle, my pistol, my blade, and 40 shots of charge. And then I saw it, up in the corner of the ceiling, a gray panel with a small fan behind it, an air recycler, standard issue on every Valyrian safe room, and behind that fan was a shaft that led up. I had seen a diagram of this design in the briefing packet. "Princess," I said, "how thin are you?" She blinked at me. "What?" "The air shaft," I pointed up. "Can you fit?" She looked up at the panel, her 4 eyes narrowed. "Yes, I think so." "Good, climb on the shelves, pop the panel, go up. Do not stop, do not come back down until I call you." "Caleb, I am not leaving you." "Princess?" My voice was harder than I meant it to be. She stopped talking. "If that door breaks with you on this side of it, everything I have done today means nothing. Do you understand me? Go up, now." She looked at me for one long second. Then she nodded once and climbed. She was fast, faster than I thought she would be. 4 hands made climbing easy. She was on top of the shelves in 3 seconds and popping the panel in 5. A gust of cool air came down from the shaft. She pulled herself up into it and vanished, and for a moment I was alone in the small stone room with a door that was starting to bend inward. The hitting stopped. I waited, my rifle was up, my breathing was slow. Then the door exploded. It did not swing open. It did not slide. The whole thing came out of its frame in one piece and flew across the room and smashed the bed frame into the far wall. A wave of heat and dust rolled over me. Through the empty doorway, I saw what had been standing in the corridor. It was tall, much taller than a Valyrian. Its body was the shape of a Croth, but its head was wrong. Its head had a silver face stretched over it, a Valyrian face. Sub-Captain Veskin's face, or what was left of it, pulled over something that had never been meant to wear a face at all. I did not think. I fired. The first shot hit the face and blew half of it away. The thing screamed, and the scream was 2 voices at once. One was the Croth shriek from the main hall. The other was Sub-Captain Veskin's voice, still trying to finish the sentence he had been ordered to say. "Open the door. Open the door. Open the..." I fired again. It dropped to its knees. I fired a 3rd time. It fell forward and did not move. Behind it in the corridor I saw them. 3 more, bigger, older. Their chitin was darker, their limbs longer. These were not the drop troops from the main hall. These were something else. Hunters, trackers. The kind of creatures a species sends when the first wave fails. They saw me. They did not charge. They studied me. One of them tilted its blade-shaped head to the side, and I swear to every power that ever watched over a soldier, that thing was thinking. It was looking at me and it was measuring me. It was working out what I was and whether I was worth the cost. I did not give it time to finish the math. I grabbed the blanket off the floor. I grabbed the lamp off the shelf. I smashed the lamp and poured its oil across the blanket. I hit the blanket with a spark from my rifle vent. It caught fire in 2 seconds. I threw it through the doorway. The corridor filled with smoke and flame. The 3 hunters pulled back. They were not afraid of fire, I could tell, but fire hid me, and they did not like that. They did not like not being able to see what they were fighting. I used the smoke. I climbed the shelves. I pulled myself up into the air shaft and kicked the panel shut behind me. The shaft was narrow and cold and dark. Somewhere above me I could hear Asari breathing. Quiet, controlled, careful. "Keep moving," I whispered up. "Straight up. There will be a junction. Go left." "How do you know?" "Standard Valyrian design," I whispered. "I read the book." We climbed. Below us the hunters were in the safe room now. I could hear them turning it over, looking for us. It would not take them long to find the shaft. Maybe 2 minutes, maybe less. Asari reached the junction. She went left. I followed. The shaft got tighter here and hotter. It was carrying air from somewhere warm. My shoulder was bleeding into my shirt. My hands were slick, but I kept climbing. "Caleb," Asari whispered. "Yes." "What was that thing, the one that wore Veskin's face?" I did not answer right away. I was thinking about it, about what it meant, about what kind of enemy has the time and the skill to wear another person's face like a mask. "It was a message," I finally said. "A message for who?" "For me," I said. "They know I am here, and they are telling me that they are not going to stop." She was quiet for a moment. "Then we do not stop either," she said. I smiled in the dark, small thing but real. "No, Princess," I whispered, "we do not." Above us the shaft turned and opened into a wider space. Pale light was coming down from somewhere ahead. I could hear wind, the smell of wet jungle, an outside smell. The estate had another level above the ground floor, a hunting platform built into the canopy. I had noticed it when I first arrived and thought it was a strange thing for a royal home. Now I understood. Every royal home had an escape route. This was ours. "Asari," I whispered, "do you know the path from the platform?" "I know it," she said. "I have climbed it since I was a child. The river is an hour south. There is a ranger station on the far bank." "Then that is where we are going." Behind us, far below, I heard claws hit metal. The hunters had found the shaft. We climbed faster. The platform bent under my weight the moment my boots hit the wood, and I knew the bridge was already dying. Asari was 3 steps ahead of me, moving on all 6 of her limbs the way Valyrians do when they really need to run. Her silver fur caught the dim green light of the jungle canopy. Below us, through the slats of the hunting platform, I could see the shaft opening we had just crawled out of. Something was coming up through it. I did not look twice. "Move," I said. She moved. The platform was built into the trunk of a giant tree, and a rope bridge led from it across a wide gap to another tree. The bridge was old. The ropes were thick but worn. It swayed in the hot wind like a tongue. Beyond the second tree, I could see more platforms, more bridges, a whole road in the sky that curved down toward the jungle floor and then toward the south. Asari hit the bridge at a run. The wood planks clattered under her hands. I went after her. The rope bridge was 30 meters long. I was halfway across when I heard the claws on the platform behind me. I did not turn around. I had learned a long time ago that turning around to look at something that was chasing you was the fastest way to die. Your feet slow down when your eyes leave the path. Your balance goes. You trip. You fall. You stop being a problem for the thing behind you because you are already finished. So I did not look, I listened. The claws were running now. Fast. Whatever had come up the shaft was lighter than the hunters from the corridor. It was smaller, and it was faster, and it was coming. "Asari," I called ahead. "When you reach the second platform, cut the ropes." She glanced back. "You will still be on the bridge." "I will jump." "Caleb." "Do it." She reached the second platform in 6 long bounds. She spun around and pulled a small knife from her belt. It was a ceremonial thing, not much bigger than my finger, but the edge was sharp. She began sawing at the 2 ropes that held our end of the bridge to the tree. I was 20 meters away, running flat out. The bridge was bouncing hard now, and every time my boot came down the whole thing swung sideways. My bad shoulder was screaming. My thigh was leaking blood down my leg. My lungs felt like they were full of smoke. Behind me, the claws hit the bridge. It changed everything. The bridge dropped 2 feet as the weight came on. I almost went over the side. I grabbed the guide rope with my free hand and kept running. Asari was sawing. She was fast. One rope snapped under her knife. The bridge tilted hard to the left. I stumbled, caught myself, kept going. 15 meters. The thing on the bridge screeched. It was a high, tight sound, not like the drop troops and not like the hunters. A new voice. A new shape of enemy. I still did not look. 10 meters. The last rope, Caleb. Cut it. You are too far. Cut it. She cut it. The bridge fell. My boots lost the wood. My stomach went up into my throat. I threw myself forward with everything I had left, arms stretched out toward the platform edge. I got 2 fingers on the wood. 2 fingers, my right hand. The rest of me was hanging in space over a drop I did not want to measure. The bridge fell past me in a long, slow roar of wood and rope. The thing that had been chasing me fell with it. I heard it scream all the way down. The sound got smaller and smaller, and then it stopped. It did not stop because it hit the ground. It stopped because the jungle ate it. Asari's 4 hands closed around my wrist at the same moment. She pulled. She was stronger than she looked. Valyrian women were built for climbing, and 17 years of doing it for fun had given her arms that were mostly muscle under the silver fur. She hauled me up onto the platform, and I rolled onto my back and lay there, staring up at the green canopy. "Do not stop," she said, but she was panting too. Her chest was heaving. "Do not stop, Caleb, get up." "Give me," I said, 10 seconds. She gave me 5. Then she pulled me up by the front of my jacket. I did not complain. We ran. The canopy road was built like a spider web. Bridges between trees, small platforms at every junction. Some of the bridges were rope. Some were wood planks with iron chains. Some were just branches that had been shaved flat and tied together. It had been a grand thing once, maybe 200 years ago, when the queens of Kefira had hunted big cats for sport. Now it was a ruin. Moss grew on everything. Vines hung down in long green ropes. Half the platforms had rotted through. But it went south. That was what mattered. South to the river. South to the ranger station. South to a radio that might still work. Asari led, I followed. We did not talk. Every breath was for running. After maybe 10 minutes, we hit a platform where 3 roads met. Asari skidded to a stop, and I almost ran into her back. She was staring down at the wood. I looked where she was looking. There was a body on the platform. It was a Valyrian, a young male wearing the gray uniform of the estate staff, a gardener maybe, or a kitchen boy, someone who had run when the pods came down and climbed up here to hide. He had not hidden well enough. Something had found him, and something had left very little of him behind. Asari made a small sound. She put one hand over her mouth. I saw her legs start to shake. "Princess," I stepped in front of her. I blocked her view. "Look at me, look at my face, only my face." She looked. "We do not have time for this," I said. "I am sorry, I know him. You knew him, we cannot help him. But if we stop here, we join him. Do you understand?" She nodded, her eyes were wet. "What was his name?" I asked. She blinked. "What?" "His name, tell me." "Tavrin," she whispered. "His name was Tavrin. He taught me how to climb this road when I was a child." "Then when we get home," I said, "you will light a candle for Tavrin. You will say his name to your mother. You will make sure he is remembered. That is how you honor him, not by dying here beside him." She wiped her face with one hand. She nodded again, harder this time. "South," she said. "South." We went around the body. We kept running. The platform started to slope downward. The trees got shorter. The canopy thinned. Light came through in bright shafts that hurt my eyes after the gloom. Somewhere below us I could hear water, moving water, a lot of it. The river. We dropped onto a platform that was lower than the others, only 10 meters above the jungle floor. I could see the ground clearly now. Thick moss, twisted roots, pools of dark water, and something else, tracks, a lot of tracks, pressed into the moss in long curved lines. Cloth tracks. They were fresh, they were pointing south. Asari saw them at the same time I did. Her face went still. "They are ahead of us," she whispered. "Yes." "How?" I thought about it. I looked at the tracks. I looked at the sky. I thought about the platform where they had tried to fake Sub-Captain Veskin's voice and the hunter that had tilted its head to study me like a problem to be solved. "They are not chasing us," I said. "They are hurting us." She looked up at me. Her 4 eyes were sharp now. The fear was still there, but under it something new was growing, something hard. "Hurting us where?" "Somewhere they want us," I said. "Probably the river, probably the ranger station. They knew we would run south. They knew we would try for the radio, so they got there first." "Then we do not go to the ranger station." "We have to," I said. "The radio is the only way to signal the fleet. Without a signal, nobody knows we are alive. Without a signal, we die in this jungle in 3 days from the water alone." She was quiet, then she said, "So we walk into their trap." "We walk toward it," I said, "and we set one of our own inside it." I pulled her down to sit on the platform. My leg was stiff. My shoulder was worse. I pulled a small kit from my belt pouch, a field medic pack the size of my palm. And I went to work on the wound on my thigh. Clean pack seal. I did the shoulder next. The kit had enough for 3 more injuries. After that, I would have to get creative. "Caleb," Asari said while I worked, "may I ask you something?" "Yes." "Why are you not afraid?" I looked at her. I finished sealing the shoulder. I put the kit back. "I am afraid," I said. "I am very afraid." "You do not look afraid." "That is the trick," I said. "That is the whole trick. You let the fear be there. You feel it. You do not lie to yourself about it, but you do not let it drive. You put it in the back seat and you keep your hands on the wheel." She thought about that. "Who taught you that?" "A woman named Claire Holden," I said. "My first sergeant. She was 5 feet tall and could carry a grown man on her shoulders. She died on a world called Perrin. She was pulling a wounded soldier out of a burning transport when the fuel line went." "I am sorry." "Do not be sorry. She would have told you the same thing. Fear is not the enemy. Panic is the enemy. Fear tells you to be careful. Panic tells you to run in circles." Asari nodded slowly. She understood. I could see it in her face. Somewhere in the jungle south of us, something made a low clicking sound. It rolled through the trees in waves, 3 clicks, then silence, then 3 clicks again. "They are calling to each other," she whispered. "Yes." "What are they saying?" "They are saying they see us," I said, "or they will soon." I stood up, my leg held. "Good." "Asari," I said, "I need you to do something hard." "What?" "I need you to lead them, not to the ranger station. Past it, along the river bank. You run. You are loud. You let them see you and you keep just far enough ahead that they think they can catch you, but they cannot." Her eyes went wide. "You want me to be the bait?" "I want you to be the shadow," I said. "The thing they chase. While they chase you, I go around. I reach the station. I signal the fleet. Then I come for you and we meet at a place you choose now and only you and I know." "Caleb, if they catch me." "They will not catch you. You are faster than me. You know this jungle. You climbed this road as a child. They are new here. They do not know the ground." She was silent. I could see her thinking, weighing. She was 17. She was a princess. Nobody had ever asked her to do anything like this in her life, and nobody had ever needed her to the way I needed her to now. "There is a place," she said finally, 2 kilometers east of the ranger station, a black stone. It stands taller than 3 men. It has the mark of the first queen carved into it. I will be there." "The black stone," I said. 2 hours from now. Whoever gets there first waits for 1 hour. If the other does not come in that hour, they go on without. Understood?" "Understood." I took off my jacket. I gave it to her. It was too big for her, but it was dark green, and from a distance it would look like a moving shape that was not obviously a Valyrian. Confusion was a weapon too. "Go," I said. "Fast, loud, stay alive." She put the jacket on. 3 of her hands did the buttons. The 4th touched my face. "Come to the stone, Caleb." "I will." She climbed down the platform and dropped to the jungle floor. She ran south, along the track line, making more noise than she had made all day. A branch snapped. A bird screamed. Somewhere to the west, the clicking started again, faster now. The herd had heard her. I waited 10 seconds. Then I climbed down the other side of the platform, into the east shadow, and I ran the long way around. The first swamp took my left boot at the knee, and I almost did not get it back. The east path was not a path at all. It was mud, warm, thick mud that sucked at my legs with every step and tried to pull me deeper. Black water pooled between the roots of trees that grew so close together their branches wove into a ceiling. Insects the size of my thumb hummed in small, angry clouds around my face. Something with a long neck watched me from a pool to my right. It did not blink. I did not look at it for more than 1 second. I moved fast anyway, because somewhere to the south, Asari was running for her life, and every minute I wasted in this swamp was a minute she spent alone with the things that wanted her. I had a compass. I had a rough map of the estate grounds I had memorized on my second day at the palace. I had a rifle with 31 shots left, and a pistol with 9 rounds and a blade I had sharpened 3 nights ago because I had been bored and my hands had wanted work. That was the inventory. That was what I had to walk into a trap with. I kept going. The ranger station was a kilometer east of where the Croth tracks had split. I had seen it once on a map in the palace library when Asari had been showing me the geography of her summer home. A small wooden building on a rise above the river, a tall antenna on the roof, a generator shed, a dock. It was used twice a year by the royal game wardens. Right now it should have been empty. Should have, I was not counting on it. The swamp thinned as the ground rose. The mud turned to wet earth, then to packed dirt. The trees got taller and the canopy let more light through. I could hear the river now, not the distant sound I had heard from the platform, but a close, steady rush. It was a big river, faster than I had expected. That was useful. Fast rivers covered noise. Fast rivers did not freeze over. Fast rivers carried things away. I dropped to one knee behind a fallen log and listened. Birds, wind, water, and far to the south a single high shriek that might have been a Croth signal. It was not close. Asari was leading them well. She was keeping them on her trail and away from me. Brave girl, braver than any Sunshield guard I had ever met. I crawled up the rise on my belly. The ranger station came into view through the trees, small, square, built of dark wood on a stone foundation. The door was open. That was the first wrong thing. A ranger would never leave a door open in this jungle. Too many things would walk in. The second wrong thing was the antenna. It was bent, not snapped. Bent at a neat 45-degree angle, like something heavy had leaned on it and then thought better of breaking it all the way. The third wrong thing was the smell. The same wet, sweet, rotten smell I had caught through the safe room door. They were here. I stayed flat, I counted, I waited. After 2 minutes I saw the first one. It came around the side of the station, moving slow, head low. It was a hunter, one of the tall, thin ones with the blade-shaped heads. It paused at the corner. It lifted its head. It tasted the air. Then it went back around the side and was gone. One hunter patrolling. That meant there were others. They did not work alone. I lay there in the wet moss and I did the math. If I was the Croth commander, I would not put my whole force at the station. That was waste. I would put a small team here, a patrol of 3 or 4, and I would send the rest of my force south along the river to run down the bait. The station was a waypoint, a backup, something to catch anything that slipped the main net. 3 or 4 hunters, with luck 3. 31 shots in my rifle, 9 in my pistol, 1 blade. I could do 3. I crawled left around the rise until I was on the north side of the station. The generator shed was here. Behind it, the antenna pole came down to a box mounted on the wall. If the antenna was bent but not broken, the radio inside might still work. Might. I crawled the last 10 meters on my elbows. I reached the shed. I pressed my back against the wood and I listened. Inside the station, I heard something move. Heavy, slow, not a hunter, something bigger. I had been wrong, there were not three. I eased my head around the corner of the shed. Through a small, grimy window, I could see into the main room of the station. A table had been flipped. A chair was broken. And standing in the middle of the room was something I had not seen before. It was huge, twice the size of the hunters. Its chitin was not black but dark red, the color of old dried blood. It had 4 main arms and 2 smaller ones folded against its chest. Its head was crowned with 6 short horns, and set into the middle of its face was a single eye as big as my fist, pale yellow, with a black slit for a pupil. A commander, a leader, the brain of the pack. It was bent over the radio console, examining it, not smashing it, examining it, turning knobs with a delicate claw, studying the display. It was trying to figure out how the radio worked. It was trying to send a false signal to the fleet, to lure them into a landing zone the Kroth already held. If it succeeded, they would kill whoever answered the call. A shuttle full of Marines, a rescue team, maybe more, maybe a lot more. Everything got simpler in that moment. The math became clean. I had to take the radio back. I had to take it back right now, before it finished its work. Even if that meant walking into a room with a commander and at least 3 hunters outside. I eased back behind the shed, I thought. The shed held the generator. The generator held fuel. Fuel burned. I slid inside the shed. It was dim and hot and smelled of oil. A small engine sat in the middle of the floor, connected to thick cables running out through the wall. A red can of fuel stood beside it. I picked it up. Half full, heavy, good. I pulled a strip of cloth from the torn lining of my undershirt. I stuffed it into the top of the can. I soaked the end of it with fuel from the cap. I set it down. I took a breath. Plan, light the cloth. Throw the can through the window into the main room. Fire will start. Commander will turn toward the fire. I go in the front door. 1 shot to the commander's head while it is distracted. Then the hunters outside come running and I take them in the doorway, 1 at a time, where only 1 can come through at a time. It was a bad plan. It was the only plan. I checked my rifle, 31 shots. I checked my pistol, 9 rounds. I pulled the blade from my thigh sheath and held it between my teeth. I lit the cloth. I waited 3 seconds for it to catch. Then I stepped around the shed, took 2 long strides toward the window, and threw the can as hard as my good arm could throw. The window shattered. The can landed on the floor of the main room and burst open. Fuel sprayed across the wooden floor. The cloth hit the fuel. Fire bloomed across the whole room in 1 long orange wave. The commander roared. It was not a Kroth shriek. It was deeper, louder. It shook the walls of the station. I was already moving. I ran around the side of the building and through the open front door. The heat hit me like a wall. The commander was turning, its huge body blocking most of the room, the radio console behind it now starting to catch fire. I shot it in the eye. Once, twice, 3 times. It fell. It did not die right away. Things that big do not. But it fell, and its huge body crashed down across the burning floor, and the single pale eye went dark. Its 6 limbs twitched once and then went still. Claws on the porch behind me. I spun. A hunter was in the doorway, head low, body coiled to leap. I fired twice. It dropped on the threshold. A second hunter came over the top of it. I fired 3 more times. It dropped too, half inside the doorway, half out. I waited. The fire was spreading up the walls now. Smoke was filling the room. I could hear the roof timbers starting to groan. A third hunter did not come. I counted to 10. Still no third hunter. Either there had only been 2 or the third had run. Kroth did not usually run, but this one might have. This one might be racing south right now to tell the main force what had happened. I had maybe 15 minutes, maybe less. I moved fast. The radio console was burning at the edges, but the main unit was still intact. I pulled my jacket sleeve down over my hand. I hit the power. The display flickered. It came back on. Thank every star that ever burned. I punched in the emergency frequency. The one Colonel Ward had made me memorize before I left Earth. The one that went not to a local relay, but to the nearest human fleet vessel. I spoke fast, I spoke clear. This is Sergeant Caleb Brooks, 3rd Earth Expedition, attached to the Valyrian Imperial Court. I am transmitting from the Ranger Station on the Kalen River, Kephira Prime. The estate has been overrun. Kroth forces on the ground, estimated numbers 300 plus, with at least one commander class present. Heir daughter Asari Vorkale is alive and in my protection. The Valyrian Sunshield Guard abandoned position. I repeat, the Sunshield Guard abandoned position. We are proceeding to rendezvous point east of the Ranger Station. Any ship on this frequency, please respond. Please respond. Static. Long static. I stood in the burning room with a dead commander at my feet and a bent antenna over my head, and I listened to static. Then a voice came through. Sergeant Brooks, this is the Earth carrier Northwind, holding in high orbit over Kephira. We have your signal. Say again on the status of the princess. It was a woman's voice, calm, sharp, exactly the voice I wanted to hear. Princess is alive, I said. Princess is running a decoy pattern south of my position to draw Kroth forces away from the station. I am proceeding to rendezvous with her now. Request immediate combat drop on my beacon. Understood, Sergeant. We have been holding position for 6 hours waiting for a ground signal. The Valyrian fleet refused to provide one. They claimed the situation was under control. I almost laughed. I did not. Ma'am, the situation is the exact opposite of under control. Understood. Combat drop is authorized. First team hits ground in 18 minutes. Bring that princess home, Sergeant. Yes, ma'am. I dropped the handset. The fire was in the ceiling now. I did not have time to do anything else. I pulled the small beacon from my belt, the one every expedition soldier carried, and I armed it. I set it on the console. I ran. I came out of the station into clear air just as the roof collapsed behind me. A wave of heat pushed me forward. I did not look back. East 2 kilometers, the Black Stone. I ran. The forest here was different from the swamp. The ground was higher, drier, covered in a thick carpet of red leaves that crunched under my boots. The trees were shorter. The light was good. It was easier to move, but it was also easier to be seen. I ran anyway. Every second counted now. Asari had been leading the main Kroth force south for at least an hour. She could not keep that up forever. She was 17 years old and she had been running on fear and wind for the entire day. At some point, her body would fail her, or she would make a wrong turn, or she would step in a hole and they would have her. Not today, not while I still had legs. I ran for what felt like forever. My lungs were on fire. My thigh wound had opened up again. I could feel the blood running down into my boot. I did not slow down. 20 minutes later, I saw it. The Black Stone rose above the trees like a tooth, taller than 3 men, just as she had said. The carving of the first queen was still visible on its face. The weather had worn most of the detail away. The stone stood in a small clearing, with red grass around its base and yellow wildflowers that looked almost like the flowers back home. I slowed to a walk. I circled the clearing first. I did not see any Kroth tracks. I did not see Asari either. I was first. I checked the time. I had 40 minutes before the hour ran out, and the rendezvous rule said I should move on without her. I was not going to move on without her. I found a spot at the base of the stone where I could see all 4 approaches to the clearing. I sat down with my back against the cold rock. I reloaded my rifle. I pressed a fresh seal on my thigh. I drank half of the water I had left. Then I waited. 10 minutes passed. 20. 30. Somewhere far to the west, I heard the distant thunder of drop pods hitting atmosphere. Human drop pods this time. The Northwind was delivering. 35 minutes. I stood up, my bones hurt. My hands were shaking from low blood sugar. I scanned the clearing one more time. And then I saw her. She came out of the trees on the south side of the clearing. She was stumbling. My jacket hung off her shoulders. One sleeve was torn. There was blood on her silver fur, a lot of it, but none of it looked like it was hers. She was holding one arm against her chest like it was hurt. Her face was gray with exhaustion. But she was smiling. She saw me, and she smiled, and she walked across the clearing to me on legs that barely held her up. "Caleb," she whispered when she reached me, "I did it." I caught her before she fell. "You did it, princess," I said. "You did it." Behind her, at the far edge of the clearing, something moved in the trees. And it was not a rescue team. I saw the shape in the trees, and I knew we had about 6 seconds before it charged. Asari was half in my arms, half on the ground, her legs gone soft under her. I could feel her breathing against my chest, fast and shallow. I had maybe one hand free. I had maybe one good shoulder. And whatever was in those trees was already moving, because the leaves on the south edge of the clearing were shaking in a way that leaves do not shake on their own. "Princess," I said, "behind the stone now." She did not argue. She found something left inside her and pushed off my chest and stumbled around the black stone. I went with her. I set her down against the cold rock. I turned. I raised my rifle. I aimed at the tree line. It came out. It was not a hunter. It was not a drop trooper. It was something smaller and faster than both. A scout maybe, a tracker. Its body was low to the ground. Its limbs were long and thin. Its head was almost flat, with wide eyes that swept side to side. It had been following Asari's blood trail. I could see the last of her steps pressed into the red grass behind it. It saw me, it stopped. For one long second, we looked at each other across the clearing, two animals measuring. Then it opened its mouth and it screamed, not a warning scream, a calling scream. It was telling every Kroth within 2 kilometers that it had found us. I shot it in the throat. It dropped, the scream cut off halfway through, but it had already been loud, and loud in a forest was a sound that traveled. I counted 1 heartbeat, 2, 3. Then the jungle answered. A long, low chorus of clicks rolled through the trees from the south. Not one voice. Many. A lot more than many. The main force had heard the scream, and the main force was turning around. Asari was watching my face. She saw whatever was on it, and she sat up a little straighter. "How many?" she asked. "Enough," I said. "Can we run?" "Not far enough, not fast enough." "Then what?" I looked at the black stone. I looked at the clearing. I looked up at the sky. "We wait," I said. "We hold this ground. Help is coming." "How long?" "Not long enough." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "All right." That was all right. No panic, no tears, no wasted words. In that moment I understood something about her that I had not understood before. Asari Vorkale, third daughter of the Coral Throne, was not a child. She had maybe been a child yesterday morning. She was not anymore. The girl who had been holding a flower in the garden was gone. Something harder had grown in her place, and it had grown in less than a day. I turned my back on her so she could not see my face. I did not want her to see how proud I was. She did not need that right now. She needed me to be a soldier. I got to work. The black stone was at the center of the clearing. The ground around it sloped down in every direction for about 20 meters. Then the tree line began. That was my kill zone. Anything coming at us would have to cross 20 meters of open red grass under my rifle. 20 meters was not much, but it was something. I helped Asari sit up against the base of the stone, facing north. "They will come from the south and west and east," I said. "Not the north. The north is behind us. Watch the north. If anything comes from there, you tell me. If anything comes from there and I am busy, you take this." I pressed my pistol into her upper hands. 9 rounds. She looked at it. She nodded. She wrapped 2 hands around the grip the way I had shown her. "The safety is here," I said. "Push it down. Then pull the trigger. Do not aim, point and pull. Keep pulling until it stops." "Understood." I took up position on the south side of the stone. I rested my rifle on a small ledge in the rock. I had 22 shots left. I had to make them count. The first Croth came out of the trees 30 seconds later. It was a drop trooper, fast, lean, stupid. It broke cover and ran at me in a straight line, claws out, screeching. I shot it in the chest. It fell at 12 meters. A second one came 3 seconds behind the first. I shot it in the head. It fell at 10 meters. Then the real wave came. They did not come one at a time anymore. They came in a line across the south tree line, maybe 15 of them moving together, using each other as cover. I picked my shots. Head, chest, head, chest. Each round I fired, a Croth dropped. But for every one I dropped, 2 more stepped over its body and kept coming. "Caleb," Asari called behind me. Her voice was tight. "East side." I spun. 4 more Croth were breaking out of the east tree line. I shot the first. I shot the second. I turned back south and shot another 2 from the main wave. My shoulder was screaming. My hands were shaking. My count was bad, but I thought I had maybe 14 shots left. The east Croth closed the distance. One of them made it to the base of the stone. I did not have time to turn. I heard Asari's pistol fire. 3 shots fast, clean. The Croth made a sound I had never heard a Croth make, and it fell backward into the grass. One of the shots had hit its eye. The other 2 had hit its chest. "Good girl," I breathed. "West," she called. "West now." I spun again. The west side was open ground. 3 more Croth were sprinting at us across it. I fired, 2 dropped. The third kept coming. I fired again. Nothing. Empty. I dropped the rifle and pulled my blade from my thigh. The third Croth closed. It leapt at me. I went low under its jump. I brought the blade up as it passed over me. The weight of it came down on the blade, and the blade did its work. The Croth crashed into the stone and did not move. I came back up. I reached down and pulled the rifle power pack from the body. Matched caliber, compatible cells. I slammed it into my own rifle. 12 more shots. I turned south again. The main wave was closer now. 8 of them still coming. 10 meters, 9. And then the sky ripped open. A high, thin whine grew into a roar. A shadow passed over the clearing. 3 earth drop pods came down through the canopy in a tight cluster. They hit the ground on the south side of the clearing, just inside the tree line, with a sound like 3 hammers falling on 3 anvils at once. The pods opened. 6 Marines came out of each pod. Earth 3rd Expedition armor, black and gray, full combat gear. 18 Marines. Their rifles came up before their feet finished moving. They saw the Croth. They did not hesitate. The Croth wave came apart in 5 seconds. I stood with my back against the black stone, and I watched 18 of my own people do in 5 seconds what I had been barely surviving for the last 12 hours. It was a beautiful thing. It was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. A Marine captain ran toward me across the clearing. She pulled her helmet off as she came. She was tall and dark-skinned, and her hair was cut short. Her name patch read Nora Green. "Sergeant Brooks," she said, "you look terrible." "I feel worse," I said. "Princess Asari." "Alive." I stepped aside. Asari was still sitting with her back against the stone, my pistol in her hands, her chest rising and falling. She looked up at Captain Green with eyes that were already starting to close. Captain Green knelt beside her. "Your Highness, you are safe now." "I know," Asari said. She said it looking at me, not at the captain. Then she passed out, just like that. Her body gave up the last of its fuel and she tipped sideways, and one of the Marine medics caught her before her head hit the stone. I started to kneel beside her and my legs did not work. I had not noticed when they had stopped working. I sat down hard on the red grass. The world got a little gray around the edges. "Sergeant," Captain Green said. She was somewhere above me now. Her voice was coming from far away. "Medic, medic to the sergeant now." "I am fine," I said. I was not fine. "You are bleeding from 6 places, Sergeant Brooks." "7, actually," I said. Then I laughed because for some reason that was funny, and then the gray edges closed all the way in and everything went black. I woke up in a white room. The ceiling was the smooth pearl white of a Valyrian medical cruiser. I had seen ceilings like that before. Nobody I knew enjoyed seeing them. I was lying on a soft bed. Tubes ran into both of my arms. Something cold and tight was wrapped around my shoulder and my thigh. My left hand was in a brace. A human nurse was standing by the bed. He was a young man with red hair and kind eyes. His name tag read Oliver Pike. "Welcome back, Sergeant," he said. "You have been out for 6 days." 6 days. My voice was a dry whisper. "Your body decided it was done. We did not argue. The princess is alive, is well, has been asking after you every 4 hours since they brought you in." I let my head fall back on the pillow. 6 days. 6 days of somebody else watching over her. I could let myself rest now. I could let my hands stop shaking. "Her people?" I asked. Oliver's face changed a little. He became careful. "There has been," he said, "a political situation." He did not have to say more. I could guess the rest. 2 days later I was strong enough to sit up. A day after that I was strong enough to stand. A day after that Asari came to see me. She walked into my room on her own legs. She was wearing a simple blue robe. Her silver fur had been cleaned and brushed. The cut on her forehead had healed into a thin, pale line. She looked older than she had looked in the jungle. She looked like a woman now, not a girl. Somehow, in 6 days, something in her had finished growing. She crossed the room and she sat on the edge of my bed. 2 of her hands took one of mine. The other 2 folded in her lap. "Caleb," she said. "Princess." She shook her head. "Not princess, not from you, not ever again." "All right, Asari." She smiled. It was a tired smile, but it was real. "My mother, the queen, has asked to meet you," she said. "Tomorrow, in the Great Hall." "That sounds important." "It is the most important meeting the Coral Throne has held in 400 years. I looked at her. "What is happening, Asari?" She took a long breath. "Captain Threx and his 11 Sunshield guards have been arrested. They are to be tried for the breaking of the sacred bond. It is a charge that has not been brought in 4 centuries. The penalty, if they are found guilty, is exile. Some in the council have called for death." I thought about that. I thought about the long, empty corridor in the estate. I thought about the sound of Sunshield boots running away. "What do you want?" I asked her. "What do I want?" "For Threx, you decide. The Queen will listen to you. What do you want?" She was quiet for a long time. She looked down at my hand. "I want him to live," she said finally. "I want him to live a long time. I want him to wake up every morning for the rest of his life knowing that a human kept me alive while he ran. I want his name spoken with pity and with shame until the day he dies, and then I want his name forgotten." "That is a hard thing," I said. "He earned it." "Yes," I said, "he did." She was quiet again. Then she said, "There is something else." "Go on." "The Queen and the Council have voted. They wish to adopt you into the House of Vorkale, to give you a name in our language, to make you one of us by law and by blood as far as their law can reach. You would be my brother in their eyes. You would be in the line of succession." I stared at her. "Asari." "I know it is much." "It is too much." "It is the smallest thing they can do," she said, and they know it is too small. I thought about it. I looked at the ceiling. I thought about a hallway and a doorway and a fire in a ranger station. I thought about Claire Holden, who had died pulling a man out of a burning transport on a world called Perrin, and who had taught me that fear goes in the back seat. I thought about the 100 things I had done in 16 years of service that nobody would ever put on a record. I do not want a title, I said. I thought you would say that. But I will not say no to your mother without hearing her out. It would be rude. My mother will appreciate that. I turned my head and looked at her. She was still holding my hand with 2 of hers. She looked very young in that moment and very old at the same time. Sorry, I said. Do you know why I did not run? Tell me. Because you were 17, I said, and nobody else was going to stay, and I could not live with the version of myself that had walked out of that room with them. I know, she said. You said something like that in the hallway, but I do not think that is the whole reason. What do you think is the whole reason? She thought for a moment. I think it is because somewhere inside you there is a thing that does not know how to run. I do not think you put it there. I do not think you chose it. I think it is what you are. And what is that? She smiled, a small, tired, beautiful smile. Human, she said. 3 weeks later, I stood in the great hall of the Coral Throne while the Queen of Kefira spoke my name in her own language. She spoke for a long time. A lot of people watched. I did not understand most of what she said. I understood the feeling of it. I understood the weight. When she was done, Asari stepped forward. She was wearing a long white dress now with silver thread woven through it. She carried a small black box in 2 of her hands. She opened it. Inside was a medal, not a Valyrian medal, a human one, the star of the 3rd expedition. The highest honor Earth gave to soldiers who had done things nobody asked them to do. How did you get that? I whispered. I called your Colonel Ward, she whispered back. I asked her politely. You asked my colonel for my medal. I asked her for the right one, she agreed. She pinned it to my chest. Her hands were steady. When it was done, she took my hand and she walked me to the edge of the hall, where a tall window looked out over the jungle. The sun was going down. The canopy was a sea of gold and green. Caleb, she said, will you stay on Kefira for a while? For a while, I said. Will you teach our new guard, the human way, the way that does not run? I thought about it. I thought about a whole generation of young Valyrians learning what a protector was from the ground up with no old songs and no 400-year legends to lean on. Just the simple truth. You stay. You plant your feet. You do not let the thing in front of you get past. I will teach them, I said. Thank you. On one condition. Name it. You take the first class, I said. Front row, no special treatment. You earn it the same as everyone else. She laughed. It was the first time I had heard her laugh since the morning the sky cracked open. It was a good sound. It was the sound of a girl who had not been a girl for a long time, remembering that she could still be one, just for a minute, at the end of a long, hard road. Agreed, she said. We watched the sun finish its fall. Somewhere, far away, across 3 sectors, the galaxy was starting to learn a new word for the species that had stayed when the stars said to run. It did not translate easily. It still does not. The closest any tongue has come is this. The ones who stay.